Welcome to Somerset Success Strategies. Today's posting is titled, Creating a Culture of Community. This is a follow-up post to one that we provided back on our WordPress blog, Somerset Success Strategies, on May 5th of 2008 that we called the 5 Purposes Tool. The second of the 5 purposes then described was as follows: to create a viable, sustainable community rather than merely a workplace. So of the 5 organizational purposes we described, that was purpose number 2. And I think we can all agree that is a very worthwhile and valid business purpose no matter what your organization may be or do. But it really begs the follow-up question: how do you create this type of community in your workplace? To find the answer, I have turned to a couple of notable experts outside of the field of business. My goal was to find community-building best practices regardless of their source, and then apply those principles to business. Now, I found 2 experts, and so I am breaking this blog posting down into 2 parts. In part 1, we're going to cover research materials that were found in our search that were provided by the Buddha. Now, Buddha recognized the mission-critical function of community building, and he taught a specific system. I have paraphrased and modernized the Buddha's language as follows. Number 1, practice a sincerity of speech, avoiding gossip and double talk so that you might enjoy the joy of fellowship. Number 2, practice a kindness of action. Number 3, practice a sympathy of spirit. So, sincerity of speech, kindness of action, sympathy of spirit. Next, provide for an equal sharing of common property. Now, this isn't advocating communism or that we should all be paid the same, but it simply points out that if we have common property, common community property, whether it's our kitchen facilities, whether it's our parking fields, whether it's our restroom facilities, that we all should have access and that we shouldn't be creating divisive issues within our workplaces by having private parking spaces for our senior executives or private restroom facilities, that we're all equally as important, or we shouldn't be part of the organization, and we should be able to share equally in the common property. Next, that we should share a common purpose or mission. There should be a reason why we turn up to the office every day. We should share a common vision and set of values. There should be this future state that we're trying to create together, or vision. There should be rules of engagement for the workplace, what we stand for, what we won't stand for, that are called values. So that's the basic system that Buddha provided. Now, he also provided 7 kind of behavioral principles relating to community building. And again, I have paraphrased and modernized the Buddha's language to bring it up appropriately to the 21st century. First of all, he advocates that we gather together frequently and discuss our vision, mission, and values. So this is an organizational responsibility to indoctrinate the vision, mission, and values. Don't just create them, indoctrinate them. And that is an organizational responsibility. You've got to communicate your vision, mission, and values. Secondly, we need to respect one another. So that is everybody's responsibility. It's the organization's responsibility, and the team members' responsibility to respect one another. He says we should revere the purpose or mission and observe the values. So this is what the team member brings to the table. If the organization has been very clear as to what the purpose and mission are, if they've been very clear what the values are, then we accept those as a condition of employment, and we need to revere the purpose and mission, and we need to observe the values as part of what we bring to the table as team members, or we should go work somewhere else. He advises that older and younger should respect each other with courtesy. Well, I think that's basically a mandate for valuing each other's differences, which is also a key Covey principle. In his setting, that was really the main difference, was generational. But today what we're really saying is that regardless of somebody's language, regardless of their dress, regardless of their education, regardless of their religion, their gender, their nationality, their religion, that we should value each other's differences and respect one another in the workplace. The Buddha reminded us that sincerity and reverence should mark our bearing. So a workplace should be a place where we have serious people doing serious work. And we should refrain from idle talk. Now, that isn't to say that we shouldn't have fun at work. We should and we can have fun at work. But fundamentally, we've always got to remember it is work. And therefore, we do need to behave as serious people doing serious work. Buddha reminds us to purify our minds in a private place. Well, this is basically the Covey Quadrant 2 time. We had a posting at our WordPress blog on May 8th that was titled, Filter Out the Noise with the Covey Quadrant 2 Planning Time. It's important that today, just as important as it was 2,600 years ago when Buddha first advocated for it. Purify your minds in a private place. Buddha reminds us to be thrifty and frugal. Now, clearly there's no better time to be talking about being thrifty and frugal than right now, given our current economic conditions. But frankly, we should always be thrifty and frugal in good times and in difficult times and challenging times. And also to point out that being thrifty and frugal is not the same as being cheap. It's never a good idea to be cheap. It's always a good idea to be thrifty and frugal. And what thrifty and frugal means is that we are simply careful and thoughtful when we use organizational resources. Now, the second expert that I decided to utilize for our community building principles is Rick Warren, author of The Purpose-Driven Life, and we're going to cover his community building recommendations and systems and practices in part 2 of this post. In the meantime, we would love to hear from you as to your systems and practices and policies and procedures and advice and counsel as it relates to creating a culture of community. We would love to hear from you. Thank you.